What got you involved in public service in the first place?
It truly was. You've heard me say it a number of times. It truly was. I was a young family who had young kids. My daughter was 6 or 7. Can't remember how old you have to be to play Little League. Had just gotten involved with Little League, and so I had a son who was 2. And we had not a lot of amenities that were no or low cost for families in parks, and we lived in those parks. And I knew that if we as a young family were living in those parks, other young families were, and I saw them there. And so I got involved with the Parks Board and wanted to get swing sets and big toys into parks, and they're very expensive, $50,000 to put just a regular big toy into a park. And so I would speak in front of the city council, and at that time all of the city council, they were all men and they were all older, and they didn't even know where the parks were. And so they really didn't understand what a critical component that whole park system was to young families. They really didn't understand it. And so after I spoke with them a number of times, I thought, geez, there needs to be a perspective of a young family on the Keizer City Council, because they really just didn't have one. And so I can't remember how long I was on parks, but a while. I want to say maybe
10 years, was it?
Was it really?
Something we dug up was like you were on there for 10 years.
Gosh, I didn't know it was that long. I was going to say 5. Well, I knew it was a while. And so, but it was really hard to get funding. And so the next step was to be a part of the decision-making process so that we could get funding for amenities in parks. That's really where it started. And so at the time, if you remember, 9 parks, 1 big toy, Claggett. Today, 19 and 8 big toys. So it's good, but it takes a long time. That's the thing, when I first got involved, I thought, oh my gosh, everything takes so long. It's not going to take that long with me. I'm just not going to go. That is just not going to happen. Oh my gosh. But you know what? I've really come to appreciate that and understand it, because the longer you take, the more debate you have, the more painful it is, truly the better decision it is. And when you finally execute whatever project it is, then the less the less animosity or the less naysayers you have come to the table, because they've had a chance to be heard. And even though it takes what seems to be an unreasonable amount of time, I know that folks say that all the time, it takes so long to get things through government. That's the way it was designed. It was designed to allow for an open forum until you've truly beaten that horse to death and answered every question that could possibly be. Then you move forward. And I can't tell you how many times I've been surprised starting out thinking this project's going to come down this way, only to have it end this way because of all the voices that have come into the room and the things that you just didn't think of. And so I've really come to appreciate it. I hated it at first and thought that I was really going to be a change agent and make things happen faster. I wasn't, and I'm glad that I went.
How long were you in Keizer before you really saw this need and decided that you needed to get involved?
I would say 2 to 2.5 years, because when I moved to Keizer, I was 9 months pregnant, and I moved into my house, and it was a brand new house, and the air conditioning wasn't working, and so I called my builder crying, saying I was 9 months pregnant, and it was 120 upstairs, and then Evan was born, just a few months later. Let's see. I think we moved in August, and he was born in September. I was very pregnant.
Yeah.
So you applied for an open city council seat in 1998.
Okay.
And that's when the whole bucket thing, you and Jackie Moyer were tied 3-3, and that's when both names were put in the bucket.
Right.
And the police chief pulled out the name, and that's
right, Mark Adams, right.
You served for 2 years on the council before you ran for mayor.
Really? Well, I was council president first.
Yes, but you got on the council in '98.
I can't remember. Okay.
then you were council president, I guess, in 1990 or 2000, and then you
It was
ran
when
for mayor.
Gary Whalen had to step down.
Right, which was in 98.
Okay.
So at the beginning of all of that, and today, who was your political mentor?
Bob Newton. Really, he was. I mean, all the things that you've heard me say for the last 14 years, those are all true. He did talk to me 3 times before I had already filed to run for city council. And I'm sincere when I say I wouldn't have voted for me. I only had a little over 2 years experience, and I really didn't know what I didn't know. And Bob was very compelling, I've never worked with another city councilor that loved Keizer the way that Bob Newton loved Keizer. He loved Keizer. And he took joys in the littlest of things, like starting the community band, to huge projects, like he was instrumental in the skate park, and his hand is in so many places. He really was able to do a lot, and he really conveyed to me at that time, nobody was on city council, that Jerry's wife was very ill, Shirley. He couldn't run. Jim Keller couldn't run because he had a business that he had to run. And he just ticked off, everybody that was on council that had any experience, and really there was no one. And so he said, even 2 years of experience is better than no experience. If we hire a mayor that's brand new, I mean, you're at least 2 years down the road. And if we hire someone new, we'll lose those 2 years. And I think we had 3 city councilors come on at the same time. And so he said, that's 4 new people, 4 brand new people. And one of those people will be setting agendas and will be the face of Keizer and will be setting our agendas. And he really did wear me down. I didn't think I was not prepared. And I didn't want to embarrass myself, but more than that, I felt that he had done such a great job as mayor. I really think he did. And I really didn't want to have someone follow him that was going to mess things up and not continue in the tradition that he had already started.
Was he also your political role model, or does that title belong to somebody else?
My role model? Well, I thought Bob was less conciliatory than I have been and less compromising. He was, he was a pretty firm hand, and that was good. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not as top down as he was, but he was such a kind man, and he, again, you could forgive a lot of his robust attitude because I felt that his intentions were very good. Political role models for me have always been the selfless counselors, the ones that were there because they really didn't have an agenda. I didn't have an agenda. I just wanted to put swings in parks and put more parks amenities. I just wanted to do what I could really for younger families to just bring in, improve our quality of life and those types of amenities. And Jackie Moyer didn't have an agenda. Her emphasis was community policing, really just to make things better. You look back at the city councilors that have been able to really accomplish a lot. They have had a common agenda, and that common agenda is, how can I contribute to a community that's given me so much? How can I make it better for the next generation? Look at Richard Walsh. Look what he's accomplished. Look how we laughed at him and said, oh, for God's sake, put that park on that long-term list so he'll shut up. Now look at that park. Look what that means to our community. Boat ramp, same thing. Now he's with the big toy. I mean, he just is improving his community. You look at all of the folks that I think have been really successful and good city councilors, that's what they've done.
You mentioned when you first came on the Parks Board, you looked at the council, you didn't have the young families being represented.
Right.
You look at the council now, you can say the same thing. There's not young families being represented. How do you...
Well, you've got Joe Egley, who's got two kids,
Mhm.
and they're older kids, but you've got him. Let's see, we've got Kathy, who most of her, I think her kids are out of the house now too. Dennis, no. Kim has a married daughter who will soon be having grandchildren, and I think that's as good as a young family, because you're going to have those same. When Elliot, my 3-year-old grandson, was here, my daughter had back surgery this summer, so she stayed with me for 6 weeks. Elliot and I hit every single park. I've never had the luxury of doing that, but I wanted to see what every single park felt like. So if there were changes that we wanted to make, I knew them. I really knew the parks. And you can't believe how many grandmas that you see in those parks with little kids. And they're young grandmas like me. I'm a young grandma. And so I think that that's the same perspective, is wanting to have it there for those kids. And then with the new council, you're going to have Brandon, who has high school kids, Amy, who has young kids, well, not young, but young adults. So I think you still have that perspective. We've tried to get them in the past. It is a dicey kettle of fish. When we had Craig Campbell on there, he had tiny children. It was too demanding. He felt the reason he wanted to be on city council was for those kids, but it was taking too much time away for those kids. J.L. Wilson, ditto. He had a child, we lost him. So when they're in the midst of raising young children, it's very difficult. So if we can get them when they have high school, junior high or high school age kids, then I think it's manageable.
Regarding your tenure itself, what do you consider your greatest single achievement in your 14 years as mayor?
You know, I knew you'd ask that, and I don't really think. You know, here's what you come to realize. You know, when people say, "Oh my gosh, you've accomplished so much in 14 years." Really, you sit in a chair. You're not accomplishing that. Everybody else is doing the heavy lifting. You may be the face of your city, but you are not acting alone. It takes those other 6 counselors to make good policy decisions that are going to sustain this community. It takes a myriad of volunteers to keep this place running. So, I mean, I've been exceedingly blessed to be surrounded by really talented people. I think our little city is able to accomplish so much more than larger cities because of our whole community spirit. So I guess my greatest accomplishment, my personal accomplishment, would be being able to keep folks, talented people, engaged to continue a myriad of projects moving forward. At any one time, we have a number of projects that are ongoing, and to keep those folks engaged and to build their confidence and let them know that their efforts won't go unrewarded, and unrewarded by, we'll accomplish those projects, we'll finish them. You know, I think you even asked me, so are we really going to build the big toy? We're absolutely going to build the big toy. When has Keizer not done something they said they would do? We all come together as a community and we execute. Sometimes it's delayed, sometimes it's not exactly as we picture it to be, but we always execute.
What did you want to accomplish that proved to be elusive?
Well, the area that I'm moving into. I really wanted to show more support for the creative community. I wanted more public art. I wanted those community enrichment projects that you really don't have time for when you're mayor. I mean, I just had very little time that I could spend on that. My area was economic development, and critically important to the people that work here. You know, so important to have local jobs so that it not only builds our economy, but it also allows for people to stay local and not have to drive off. You know, 1 in 7 people still drive out of our community every day to go to work. So I had to concentrate on that. So all of the smaller things that I think enrich a community, I haven't been able to do much with at all. but my time is coming.
You've always stated that you were just a neighbor helping out, and you became the city's greatest booster and cheerleader. You remade the office in your own image. How do you think you have changed the office of mayor in Keizer?
I think that's not my line, first of all. And if you're going to publish this, I want to give credit where credit's due. That's Jackie Moyer's line. But it certainly resonated with me. And I remember the first time that I heard her say that in a council meeting. And the whole line is, we're not politicians and we're not formal in Keizer. We're really just neighbors helping neighbors. And that really resonated with me because that, people will tell me over and over again that it's not intimidating coming to our council meetings and it's not intimidating speaking with the city council. And really, that's what I hope to do. That's what I hope the office of mayor looked like. I hope that it looked like us just sitting down and having a conversation. I like that I can call you and say, seriously, Lyndon, did you really put that in the paper? And so many people have said, and city staff have said, I feel like I'm a partner with you. I feel like you're down there working with me, that you're not in an elevated office. And I didn't, all of the people that I look up to in organizations, important people, the most important people that are successful are the warmest, are the welcoming, are going to be right down there and look you in the eye and talk with you. And I wanted to be that person. I didn't ever want folks to feel intimidated to come to city council or like they couldn't call me on the phone and talk with me. Many times people have called me and said, well, I can't believe you're answering your own phone. and we would, that would go into a conversation that would last, half an hour. That's what I wanted for that office. And I think that Kathy will continue that. I think that that's a desire of hers as well. I think that has reshaped that office to let folks know that we're not formal and there's not a lot of pomp and circumstance. We have cake cookies at our swearing in. All of those things that keep us connected and small and working together.
What have you learned about politics? What's your takeaway? Well,
really, that, like I said, I had a real shift in when I first got in there. I was going to, kick butt and take names and do things fast, and I've really come to appreciate the founding fathers. I mean, they've set up government in such a way that there's so much public process that when you spend public dollars, we all put our money in the big pot together, and then we decide how we want to spend that money. And the more debate and the more thoughtful it is. I mean, it was painful to go through the Keizer Station for 8 years. 8 years. And yet, when we build it, look how highly successful that development has been. And when the economy really took a downturn and lots of places folded up and went away, we didn't. 2 national retailers left, and they left all of their locations. And so I really think that had to do with the time it took for us to plan that out. Additionally, we've got wonderful relationships with Marion County and Salem, and I've worked through 3 mayors with Salem, Mike Swain and Janet Taylor and now Anna Peterson. And Anna Peterson, I don't know if you know this, but they just did their annual volunteer awards. She gave me an award. She gave me a Mayor's Choice Award because Keizer was so easy to work with and such a good partner to Salem. And I think we are. I think that we never try to make decisions in a vacuum and think of it as a collective community, because we are. And
but we don't roll over either.
We don't roll over. No.
Sewer fees being a very good example.
That's right. No, we're going to stand up for ourselves, but at the same time, we're going to be a good partner. We're going to make sure that this is a good public policy decision for our collective community, and that's what I've learned. I guess my takeaway is politics is a team sport. You don't do anything individually, nothing. I'm so comfortable with making decisions in committee that I sometimes call a few people together. When we built our cabin,